How you doing?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for asking. Firstly, I want to thank you for giving your valuable time to me and allowing me to talk with you.
Oh, I'm very honored that you picked me. I'm curious, how did you find out about me?
I have
I
gone
have
through
gone
your
through your
website.
website.
Okay, all
Yeah.
right.
So,
So,
can you
can you
introduce
introduce
yourself to my
yourself to my
audience?
audience?
Absolutely. So I'm Catherine Matthews. I'm a writer. I'm working on my first novel, and I write a blog called Life Through My Lens on catherinematthewsauthor.com. And my blog is intended just to inspire people. I started writing it a couple of years ago when I felt like the negative voices in the world were just um, really getting to be too loud, and I felt like it was important to be a positive voice.
Wow. So,
Wow. So, what
about what
about
you will
what
write
you
in
will
your
write in
blog?
your blog?
Um, my blog is really um, stories from my youth and from being a parent and being a teacher and the lessons that I've learned in life. And I just try to inspire people to, um, reflect on life and see the good parts of it. And um, I try to inspire people to, um, be determined and help each other.
So, you will
So,
be
you will be
contributing all the
contributing all the
positive
positive
thoughts.
thoughts.
Yeah, I feel like, especially with social media, that people um, often put a lot of things out there that are really negative. And what I saw was that there were a lot of people who tried to fight that negativity by getting into arguments or debating, and it wasn't really changing anything. It was just creating more negativity. And so I decided that on my blog, what I would do is write stories of hope and stories of overcoming things and stories of, um, realizing um, the good or the silver lining in what happens and try to inspire people through a positive voice instead of trying to fight with those negative voices.
Where are you
Where are
from?
you from?
I'm from Washington State in the United States.
Okay. So, do
So,
you have experience in writing, or you're writing for the first time?
Well, I think I've been writing my whole life. Um, I mostly wrote technical things up until about 5 years ago. So I have a doctorate in education, and I wrote a dissertation, which is a pretty lengthy research book. And then on my job, my day job, I write lots of um, things about data and education, more like technical things. Um, and actually kind of fell into this because I'm also a photographer and a painter. And when I started my website for my photography, I couldn't figure out how to get the blog off my website. So then I
Okay.
was like, well, I'll just write a blog, I guess. And so I started writing a blog, and I got lots of positive feedback about the messages that I was sending out, messages of hope and growth mindset. And um, it just kind of like bloomed into this thing. And so then I think I've written 102 different posts as a result.
Okay.
Yeah.
I saw that a bundle is there and it is showing 85,000 words. What is that?
Oh, so my novel, Becoming Benny, is, yeah, it's 85,000 words.
Your
Yeah.
novel contains 85,000 words.
Yes. Yeah. And I'll
Oh,
be pitching that novel soon to try to get an agent.
that is your first novel.
It's my first novel, yes.
How much time you took to write that 85,000 words?
Well, so I started in May of 2019, just outlining the novel,
Okay.
and I spent the whole summer outlining the novel. And then November 1st, I wrote my first word. And then I
Wow.
finished on April 25th. And then from November till April, I wrote the novel, and then from April until just a couple weeks ago, I was doing editing and revising of my novel.
Okay.
So I was very fortunate because I live near Seattle, and there's a an organization called Hugo House,
Okay.
which is dedicated to developing writers. And so I was able to take classes with them and just develop my practice.
Okay. So what do you do other than writing?
I'm the director of assessment and research for a school district.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I'm sure you'll be having a lot of experience in observing people and understanding the world.
Yeah, yeah, I do actually.
Okay. So who inspired you to write a book?
Ah, that's a great question. Um, I have to say, I think my daughter. Um, so being a parent is just the most magnificent adventure of life. And so when I started writing a blog, I wrote a lot about what I learned being a parent, but also what I learned from seeing the world as she discovered it growing up. As we get older, we sort of block out some things and we become more closed off to our emotions. And so being a parent really allowed me to start seeing the world through basically new eyes. And so a lot of my stories in the beginning were stories of things that happened as I learned to be a parent, mistakes I made, and things that I discovered. And then I started writing a memoir. And a memoir is a really difficult thing to write because you really have to sort of excavate your heart and soul. And I had to put that aside. And then this story just started developing in my head. Um, and so then I decided I'd write a novel.
Okay. So what is the change that you are expecting uh, uh, by releasing your novel from the world?
Um, so what I expect is, or what I hope, all right, what I hope
Yeah.
is that when people read this novel, that they will think about how it relates to their life. And so I don't just want to entertain. Obviously, I want people to be entertained by it. I want them to laugh and I want them to cry and I want them to connect. But what I hope they will do is also find a way to examine their own lives and um, and find meaning in that novel for them. Just like my blog, I hope that when people read it, they say, "Wow, I never thought of it that way before," and that's how this really relates to my life.
So you're saying that they'll relate their life with your experiences.
Yeah, because anywhere we are in the whole world, we have something in common that we can share, and even if your experience isn't the same as mine, I think that you can feel a connection to me if there's something that we share. So my novel is really asking the question, can we ever really live as our true selves absent the expectation and judgments of other people? And I think that's a question that we all struggle with, right? Can you live as your true self? Can I live as mine? That's a big question. So I hope that when people read my novel that they'll want to examine that.
So that is completely your perception.
My perception meaning what?
Your novel is your perception.
Yeah, it's asking this question and it's trying to discover the answer. But yes, it's totally, through my eyes. But when people read a book, I'm sure you've had this experience where you read a book and you're reading that book through all the things that have happened to you in your life, from your family and your culture and your education, maybe your religion or your politics. So you'll read that book through different eyes than I'll read mine, right? But that essential question will still be really powerful. Can we live as our true selves?
So we all know that different all the human beings have their own perceptions.
Mm.
So how can you say that they'll relate themselves with your perception?
Um, well, I don't think that they will have the same perception as me, but I do hope they'll say, huh, in my life, am I able to live as my true self? You know, um, a book is often about sharing an experience that you might not have had, or I might not have had, okay? In fact, I think we're drawn to books where we go, what would it be to live like that in that time as that person, right? That's a interesting thing to examine. But at the core of any good book, I think is that piece of you that says, "Wow, I've felt that way." Maybe not in this exact situation, but I've felt that way before. And that's what connects us, right? It's those feelings that are universally human, like grief and love and joy and peace, and the feeling of connection to others.
Okay, what kind of books affected you, and what are they?
What books have affected me? Well, I'm an avid reader, so I read a wide range of things, but well, I think one of the very first books that had a big impact on my life was a book called Politics is My Parish. It's by Brooks Hayes. And it was given to me by my dad, who worked for a publishing company.
Okay,
And I got it when I was about 12 years old. And the reason it affected me so much is it's a biography of a senator from Arkansas who risked his entire political career to support the desegregation of schools in the United States, specifically in Little Rock, Arkansas, at Central High School. And it just was a really powerful book. So um, he inspired me with his courage that he followed his beliefs, even though the cost was huge to him personally. I like those books where I can emotionally connect, whether it's fiction or nonfiction. Like recently, I read Where the Crawdads Sing. Have you heard of this book?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And I just really connected with the experience of this girl as an outsider in a
Okay,
socially an outsider and having the courage to raise and take care of herself.
okay. So you said that you're a mother.
Hmm.
So you was a young girl before, and now you became mother. What is the difference that you are observing in yourself?
Oh, well, um, what is the difference between those? Well, of course, when you're a child, you're trying to figure out the world. Um, and um, I think even as an adult, you're still trying to figure out the world, but you have this human being that you're responsible for. Um, I think as a kid, you are trying to figure out who you're going to be, and you're sort of looking around for evidence that who that person is right in the world, right? And when you're older, you don't really have that. You don't really have that need anymore because you've figured out sort of who you are in general. But now you have a responsibility to suspend all of your needs because you have this child that you're trying to raise and help that person become a fully sort of formed human, in their own right, separate from you.
Have you implemented all the thoughts that you have when you was an teenage? Have you implemented all the thoughts?
Um, well, that's a great question. Well, you ask the tough ones, don't you? Um, I think that I followed a lot of the dreams that I had from childhood. So I became a teacher, I became a principal, now I'm a administrator. Um, but I think now I have this bigger picture of life and what's important. And so I'm living a lot of dreams I didn't really get until I was older. Like my writing, for example, and the art that I do, that's that's maybe not something I thought I would wanted to be when I was a kid, but now it's just who I am.
Okay, so what do you understand about all these years that you have experienced in your life?
Another really tough question. I mean, I think that's what my whole blog is about, is making sense, of the journey.
Yeah.
And that's, probably the biggest thing is understanding it is a journey and that we are always becoming. I think a belief that I had as a kid was, I'm going to have all these goals and I'm going to like get my education and then start my job and then I'll be. And the truth of life is, and the beauty of life is that we are always becoming. That um, the journey really isn't over until it is actually over. And if you just set goals and you're not open to the fact that the journey can lead you in a different direction at any time, then you're really going to miss out on the best parts of life.
Okay. So you said that you inspire people, you make people to come out from their negative mindset and negative thoughts. You have observed the social networks which are, which contains a lot of negativity. So what you are contributing to the world personally? What is the contribution that world is getting from you?
Um, well, I think my hope, I don't know what the world will get from me, and that remains to be seen. But my hope would be that through my interactions with people, through my opportunities to teach, and through my writing and through my parenting, that I'm going to leave this place a little better than when I got here. That people will maybe read what I have to say and think about something differently. And when I say differently, I mean they'll think about taking care of each other, of being hopeful, of not seeing the challenges of life or the failures of life as really challenges or failures, but rather as things that happen along the way in the journey that we can learn from.
Uh, Teaching, writing, and parenting. Tell me about each thing.
Um, well, I was a high school teacher, and I think I'm just a teacher at heart. Like, when I'm doing anything, I think of it as teaching. Um, and I think that's a really, really important job. I think parenting and teaching are probably the most important jobs ever. Um, Parenting, you know, that's just been the greatest joy of my life, being a parent. Yeah.
And writing?
Writing. I just feel really drawn to write. I write every day. Um, Things come to me, you know, as I'm just going through the course of my day, and I think, oh, that's a blog post. I got to write about that. And mostly it's like epiphanies. I don't know if you read my last blog post about the clouds. Did you read
I,
that?
I will read after this conversation.
So that blog post is really about, you know, how we can see the clouds in the sky as something like permanent that ruins our day, or we can see them as not that big a deal and something that will, you know, be blown away by the wind and allow the sky and the sun to shine through. And I thought about writing that like as I was driving to work. So I have a Jeep. Do you know what a Jeep is? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love driving with the top down. It's my favorite thing. But I live in a state where it rains a lot, right? And so I got in my Jeep and the top was down and I saw all these clouds and I thought, probably have to put the top up on the Jeep. I might get rained on. But then I thought, it'll be fine. And so I drove with the top down, and as I was driving, I thought, wow, when I really want something in life, I don't let a little bit of rain stop me. But when I don't want something very bad, then I think of those clouds as like this unsurmountable wall I can't climb over, right? But it all comes down to me. If I choose to see the clouds as permanent or ruining my day, that's me. I can also choose to see them as not that big a deal. And so I might get a little bit wet. That's the way life is.
Wow. So writing, teaching, and parenting, three different jobs.
Yeah, so I don't teach right now. I mean, I feel like I'm always a teacher, but I work in education. Uh, but they don't feel like jobs, honestly. You know,
Okay.
they feed my soul, they feed my heart.
Okay. So how many people got affected because of the words that you expressed as a teacher?
I really don't know. I really don't know. But I will say this, you know, as a teacher, as a writer, as a parent, I have had those moments where I feel really blessed that somebody took the time to just comment on my writing or write me a note as a teacher and thank me for something. And those little things, just like hearing from one person that I did something, I said something that made their day a little bit easier or their life a little better or made them think, like that's the best thing in life. That is better than money. That is that like I said, it feeds my heart and soul. And when I hear from somebody, and it might be somebody I've never met who reads one of my blogs and says, wow, that just really touched me. It's really what I needed to hear today. I just that just makes my heart so happy. And that's what really propels me. That's what makes me want to do what I do.
So three different jobs, and three different jobs you are expressing your thoughts um, in your expressing way. So how good are you as a communicator?
Well, I hope I'm very good. um, I mean, people tell me that I make sense, and I mean, I think I express my thoughts. When I'm writing, I try to write in a way that makes you feel like you're right there. You know, like your mind is engaged, your heart is engaged. I mean, I think that's what being a good communicator is, right?
Yeah.
Like I've watched a few of your interviews, and I can tell you really interested in people, and you don't have to say much to communicate that, right? You're how you feel about this mission that you're on to reach people across the world and you know find motivation and inspiration, that you communicate that in very few words because I can see it on your face.
Okay. So is that possible for a human being to connect with every human being who is living in different parts of the world? I'm asking, this is my personal questions to you.
Oh, I think so. I think you're doing it. You're evidence of that. Um, so one of my essays, which is going to be published in a book that's coming out in September, is called "Deeper Than Social Connections," and um, so through my activity on Twitter in the writing community, I have connected with people across the world, and like not just liking Twitter, you know, Twitter feed or tweets, but actually like connecting with people across the world. I have friends in Australia and in the UK, and I connected with you on Twitter just recently. Um, so that's the beauty of social media, is that you do have this opportunity to meet people across the world that are very similar, right? And you also have a chance to meet with people across the world that are very different, who can still relate to you. And I can't remember who it was. It might have been, I'm going to misquote here maybe, but I think it was Gandhi who said, peace across the world starts with single people. I hope that was the right person. But I think that's really true, right? You're in India, is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I'm in Washington State in the northwest corner of the United States. And here we are having this great conversation about our experiences. I mean, when I was your age, that was not possible. That was not possible.
Yeah, that is my next question is, what is the difference that you are observing, 20 years before what was the world, and after 20 years, what is the world that you are observing with your eyes?
It's a very different world, as a matter of fact. You know, when I was in high school, we didn't have computers in the classroom, right? So our world was really, where you lived or where you could travel to, you know. Um, in fact, when I when I was younger, like middle school and high school, um, making a phone call was really, really expensive, and so we wrote letters. We didn't we and that letter would take a week or more to get to the person wherever they were, and so you couldn't have these lasting relationships. So there are people that I met when I lived in the state of Georgia, which is 3,000 miles from where I am now, that I've, sort of lost contact with because I couldn't really communicate with them. And now, I could talk to a teacher anywhere in the world. I can learn from you on YouTube. I mean, it's just an amazing place. And I think one of the challenges is everything's really instant and everything is open, right? So we have a greater responsibility to kind of check ourselves and make sure that what we're putting out there is really who we are, and that um, it is feeding that positive force in the universe and not a negative one.
Okay. So what is parenting?
What is parenting? um, well, I think at the heart of parenting, it is helping a child to become who they're truly meant to be. And we don't know what that is, right?
Yeah.
So it's guiding them to make good decisions, but um, it's also helping them to it's giving them a safety net so that they can make decisions that have consequences and learn from those decisions as they develop into who they're going to be, right?
Yeah.
It's a huge responsibility and it's a great joy.
How many marks will you give to yourself as a parent out of 100?
It depends on the day. Yeah. So if I had to like rate myself as a parent, um, you know, I would give myself probably a solid B. Um, so there are days when I failed miserably, and there are days when I did just the right thing. I was, I don't know. I think it matters what my daughter would rate me as a parent. Uh, but I always my theory of parenting was to act from love, and I think love is choosing the greater good for the other person. And so when I made decisions as a parent, I that doesn't mean like I always said yes to everything or I always gave her everything she needed or wanted. Because there are times when saying no and having consequences is choosing the greater good for the other person. It's helping them to grow and become a good world citizen and to um, to learn determination and grit and growth mindset. Um, but being a parent also means you're going to make mistakes because there's literally no manual for being a parent, right? So you're going to make mistakes. And when you make your decisions acting from love, that means that sometimes you're going to have to apologize and say, you know what, I was out of line. This was a mistake. I should not have done that. I should not have said that. Um, yeah, because nobody's a perfect parent, right? Nobody is.
Okay. So what is your end goal?
My end goal.
Yeah.
Well, I think, like I said, I mean, my end goal is to leave this place better for my being here and not worse. So to me, that means, trying to inspire people, working hard, making a difference for kids in their learning, being a good wife and partner to my husband, and a good parent to my child. And yeah, sending out a message of hope and joy and inspiration to the world, right? Admitting when I fell short as a human being and sharing what I learned from it. And in that way, inspiring other people to examine their lives and decide, where do we fall short? Where can we celebrate? And how can we help each other? I think it was Rumi who said, we're all just walking each other home.
Okay. Okay. So can you tell me about your novel in 1 minute at last?
In 1 minute,
Yeah.
my novel is a story about a woman who is cut out of the family farm because she is a woman. And so she storms off to Alaska and is determined to prove herself. And along the way, she discovers a murder. And so it's really can she um, can she solve the murder and in the process become who she is truly meant to be?
Okay. So this is a fictional story.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. What is the name of the book?
Becoming Benny.
Becoming Benny. Who is Benny?
Benny is the main character.
Okay. Nice. So when it is going to be released?
I am pitching it and trying to find an agent now.
Okay. So yeah, I think I asked all the questions that I wanted to ask. So
Oh,
thank
thank
you.
you. I've enjoyed talking to you immensely. I'm really so impressed with your project.
Thank you. You are so much experienced person giving me uh, compliment. It means a lot to me
Oh,
because I'm very young if I compare myself with you with the knowledge. But still, I feel great. I feel proud to talk with you for a few minutes. Thank you so much for giving your valuable time to me and telling me about a lot of things. Yeah,
thank you. Would it be okay when this is put out if I link it on my website?
yeah, you can put. It is okay. Yeah,
Awesome. Thank
yeah,
you. Well, so nice to meet you.
yeah. I feel the same. Can I put this video on my YouTube channel with your permission?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you so much again.
All
Yeah.
right. Take care, Si.
Take care. Bye.